Hey guys, Morphologist here, and welcome back. Before we get on to the interview, I just wanted to say a special thank you to everybody who supported me here on my YouTube channel, as well as over on Twitch, to make content like this possible. Without you, I wouldn't have the influence that I do today, and I wouldn't certainly have been able to get an interview such as this. So hope you guys enjoy, and if you do, let me know down below. Hi guys, Morphologist here at CitizenCon at 2949, and I have two very special guests with me. One bonus guest, actually. I was only expecting to talk to John Crew, but I have with me today...
Stephen Hosmer.
Sorry?
Stephen Hosmer.
Stephen Hosmer, and your title at CIG?
Senior Systems Designer in the LA studio.
Senior Assistant Designer.
Systems Designer.
Systems Designer in LA studio. Sorry, it's a little hard to hear. There's a lot of background noise.
That's true, yeah.
And of course, John Crew, who is...
Vehicle Pipeline Director.
Vehicle Pipeline Director in which studio?
I'm in the Wilmslow UK office.
Wilmslow UK office. Yep. Okay, and so today we're going to talk a bit about ship design and just no specific targeted topic. Obviously, the Anvil Carrack's a really big topic for a lot of people looking forward to that specific ship. So I think we could talk a bit about the design language and the process of designing that ship. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in that. But first, I want to go over a little bit about the process of ship design. Now, I did a little bit of research in earlier interviews back in as far back as 2015 about your team and what have you. And back then, I believe you said you had about 5 on your team, and I'm guessing things have kind of changed since then.
Yeah, it's gone up and down over the years. So currently we have 7 system designers in the UK. Mm-hmm. We have 4 in LA. Steve's one of them, and we do have system designers in the Frankfurt and Austin studios, but they don't work on ships. They work on other aspects of the game. Art-wise, we have 3 in LA, just hiring a 4th. And in the UK office, we have about 10, 12 artists. So we've had someone on loan from the props team recently. They, as of today, have gone back to the props team. Okay. Because essentially a few of the artists went to work on Squadron instead. So we just sort of leveled it off temporarily.
Yeah, and I understand that's a really big focus right now for CIG, so that makes a lot of sense. So just quickly then, so in a typical day, it seems like you have a lot of people under your wing now. What does your job look like? What do you do in the office?
I sit in a stupidly long amount of meetings all day, every day. And there's a huge amount of just communication trying to keep on top of people. In terms of the vehicle pipeline, because I don't purely look after just the content, I'm in charge of the 2 vehicle feature teams as well, so all the programmers working on the vehicle specific features. So I actually have 5 teams that I look after. So we have the EU vehicle content team, which is basically the UK team, the US vehicle content, which is the LA and Austin team, because there's 2 vehicle artists in Austin. I have the US vehicle feature team, which is in LA, so that's 5 engineers and 2 designers, and the EU vehicle feature team, which is 5 engineers, 2 UI artists and a designer, and then there's also the new vehicle experience team, which is 2 engineers and 1 designer at the moment. So just keeping everyone all on the same page, all pulling in the same direction.
Okay. So it seems like you got a lot of things to juggle on a given day, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now why you have to spend so much time in meetings.
Yep.
So are you still at the table anymore with the designers
Not as much as I did. I'm trying to think what the actual last ship that I hands-on actually worked on, and it's going to be something very old like the Sabre.
The Sabre?
Yeah.
It's a little while ago?
Yeah, that was probably the last one that I was responsible from start to finish setting up.
The interview I remember watching, you said that your favorite ship was the Sabre. That was announced at that CitizenCon.
Still is.
So that's how long it's been since you've really been on it. Well,
so I've done bits and pieces on other ones, but that was the last one from where I was the designer that did the brief. I was the one that did the setup. I was the one that did all the handling change for it. I've done bits and pieces on other ones since then. Every now and then I'll do a design brief for a new ship, but most of my time is making sure everyone else is sort of all doing that together.
So you've definitely taken much more of a managerial role
yes,
than
it's
in
very much managerial role.
Pipeline design. All right, but we do have somebody who's more on the floor, I guess. Yeah. So what exactly do you do in terms of ship design? What's your daily job at CIG?
It really changes from day to day, depending on what portion we are of the pipeline we're in. So in White Box, I'm actually like talking to the artist a lot, kind of trying to figure out where there's going to be problems and trying to figure out solutions to those problems. And then in the gray box, we're just kind of like, okay, here the art is actually coming together, and we need to like figure out, oh, okay, that wasn't working the way we thought it was going to work, and then we kind of figure out solutions to that. And then in final art, it's like all this bug fixing, all this like final polish, and trying to get everything into the final state where we can actually ship it to you guys.
Right. So, but then, when you say there are issues sometimes with the art direction,
Yeah.
With a more closer to release version, what exactly do you have to do then in that situation? What's exactly the issue with it? Like, can you give an example?
Could give one we're going to talk about later today in the Pisces, which, depending where you do this, you can cut in the presentation with some sweet visuals. So the Pisces was, or is, a 3-man ship.
Yeah. Which is an awesome ship, by the way. I love it.
Good. Glad everyone likes it. So the concept artists, they work in 3D now. A lot of the old concepts were just 2D, and obviously there's a huge gap between solving something in 2D and something in 3D. So that's where a lot of the old ships run into problems. So all the new ships, they might start off as 2D and then we work in 3D. The concept artists have all the metrics and all the animation templates, which is something we never used to have in the past. But even still, there's still that difference between looking at something in Max or Maya or Keyshot, Modo, whatever, and then the actual in-game implementation of it. So the Pisces used to have a pilot at the front, a co-pilot behind in sort of identical chairs, and then a third engineer station to the side. And in Max, all those seats could independently move with each other. Everyone could get out without interfering with each other. There was enough clearance. But when we got that in-game in white box and we put those assets in, pilot turns around, walks straight into the co-pilot. Because the game uses a capsule, so don't know if you know, like the eggs inside Kinder Eggs, like that is literally one of those, but human-sized character. So in Max, if you look at a human animating out, you go, well, there's enough space for these two people to go past each other here. But in game, the capsule's out here both sides.
Yeah, so when we're like designing a space and you have a seat, there's actually like we have this like metric that shows you where a person can get out of the seat, and that's why it might look like there's a lot of space around a seat and around a bed or something like that, but that space is needed for the animations, like if you get out this direction or that direction, so you actually have to have all of that space.
It's the same for corridors. Like you could have a tight corridor in reality, and two people would just turn like that to go through. You can't do that in game. You're both essentially just walking around like this the entire time.
Yeah. So obviously, in my profession, it'd be something like code. You have to adhere to some sort of code.
Yeah.
That you realize that, okay, no, I can't actually do this because people can't fit past one another. So I completely understand what you guys are saying. So that's typically the issue then you guys are running into with these designs.
And the thing I'm currently working on is the Prowler, which we've got like I think 16 to 20 people in the Prowler, and like trying to figure out people walking between those spaces and having that many people in that ship with their harnesses and like getting in and out of the jump seats. It's kind of a nightmare, but I think we're kind of like trying to massage that space a lot right now.
The Valkyrie was another good one that we got pretty much all the way to final art with, and then found a huge problem with it, and that was the area that has all the jump seats in used to only have a single door in and out. When you look at it as a piece of art and design, yeah, fine, it's a door people can go out of. You do a first big widespread test in-game with QA, 10 people stand up at once and all try and pile through this single-seater door.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere. So I was like, oh, well, obviously this now needs to be a double door, so why didn't we do that at the start? But that was missed all the way from concept all the way up to probably 3-4 weeks away from release. We're like, oh, good. We need to change this.
But that would actually indicate to me at least that you've got the system down well enough where you can go back and make some of these changes last minute if you need to, because the systems are now in place to more streamline the process. Would that be right in making that assumption?
A lot of the old ships, or the older versions of ships, certainly I'm trying to think what the original ships, like the original Freelancer, that was essentially just one singular mesh. It was a very traditional computer game model for how most engines and most games at the time built their model. You just make it at one, you just unwrap it as a single mesh and you texture that, which is great. You get good results until you need to change something. And then it screws up all the UVs, you have to re-export everything. These days, all of our ship interiors are almost 100% modular. So all the wall pieces, you've got a corner piece, you've got a single wall width, double wall width, 45 in, 90 in, out, and then you can literally just build any sort of, like you see with modular space stations, but on a smaller scale.
So almost like a kit of parts now that you have, essentially, with working.
And we do that for all the ships as we go. So Anvil for the Carrack was helped by doing the Valkyrie. So we had all the interior kits from that. The Valkyrie was helped by having the Terrapin. When we did the Terrapin, it took a long time because there was no Anvil ship in-game with an interior that we could pull from.
Right, and I think that's something I want to touch on next is the interior design language of the Carrack, of Anvil. You've got a lot of exterior models now. You've got a few Anvil ships in game. They're beautiful ship designs. I think you've done a phenomenal job with them, but now you really have a really big interior of a ship with the Carrack. Were there any specific challenges that you guys encountered with that design?
There were a couple, which again we'll talk about in our panel, but we started on the Carrack last year. There was a ATV, I think, that had two of the artists working on it, and that was just building assets out of what we had at the time there. So it was all white box, very loose, and if you just looked at it, you went, yeah, that's Anvil shape. It's got a weird hexagon that's not quite a hexagon. And then we came back onto it again at the start of this year, and the guys that had worked on it were now working on Squadron, so we didn't have the knowledge from those. Well, they're in the same building, we talk to each other, but it's different when another artist comes onto something. They want to do it slightly their way, and we found that all the artists working on the Carrack had interpretations of, like, we'd given them all the same style guide of, this is the Anvil style guide, corridors like this, shapes like this, do this.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the problems with design. It's very subjective, right? And so people will see different things that they like about it in the design process. And it's interesting to hear about the internal struggle between the different designers and different ideas. But I think this is probably one of those issues, and again, I'm speculating here, about just getting experience with a specific design set of the language to have a common language between everybody who you start to understand, okay, this is how an Anvil corridor looks, this is how a console looks. Seating looks, right?
It's part of the reason the 600 and the 890 took so long to come out.
Now, you guys kind of put yourself in a corner with Kirby design.
Yeah.
That's in architecture, that's one of the hardest things to do because it's so easy to make it look really bad. I know there's something about organic shapes that is super challenging to the human eye because somehow we start associating it with more human forms somehow, and we're more attuned subconsciously, I would think, to the way it looks. Yeah. So, but I think you guys did a really good job with 890 Jump, so I want to compliment you guys on that.
Thanks. I'll pass it on to the art guys because a lot of them were the same guys that did the 600. And to some of them, they did nothing different between the two. It's all just the add-on dressing pieces that made it look. But yeah, like you say, it's subjective. There's people that like the 600 for its sort of brutalist, open, cold styling, and then there's people like, that's not what I want from this. I want it to be.
For me, like one of the things that I've seen, and I don't know if you're familiar with the work that I've done. Professionally, I work as an architect, but I really love Star Citizen because of the amount of thought and time you guys put into your work. And so for stuff like the 600i, I thought it was interesting to look at the interior spaces, and I kind of disagreed with it. I didn't mean to be super harsh. It was just supposed to be really helpul.
There was a lot of guys that worked that like.
A lot of the guys on the gray market were really upset with that, actually. Anyway, but what I noticed about the 890 Jump to me is that it seems that not just in terms of the language for Origin, but in terms of your ability to craft a really well organized interior space in terms of how the different program, and that'd be the elements, so like engineering, the bridge, crew quarters, how they work together, the corridors connecting them. It seems like you guys have started to get into your stride with how things are organized in these spaces. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case for a lot of ships. When we hit a new manufacturer, we have to get over that hurdle again, and it was tough for Origin because we only had small ships to go from. If you look at the old, so when we started the 600i, we had the A5X and the 300 series to go from, which isn't a lot to go from a small ship like that to a huge ship. So the more we do, definitely the better we get. We can knock out Age of ships all day long. It's just sort of.
You got plenty of those.
No problem now, and Anvil's getting the same way.
That's true.
Drake from the LA office does a lot of Drake stuff.
The
So
Caterpillar, we made a lot of kit batch pieces for that. So yeah.
Yeah, and we used a lot of that for the Kraken that we showed last year. So we built the exterior of that, but that used a lot of the same greebly stuff that was on the Caterpillar. So.
Excellent. I think you guys have done a really good job with the Drake design language. I think I speak for quite a few people in the community that I love the rundown, kind of beaten look of it, the lived-in universe. I mean, it kind of calls to stuff like Star Wars, that lived-in feel.
Yeah, we always sort of references like that, the Russian Soviet style of aircraft. Like you go in an old Russian helicopter, that's what you see versus a Chinook or a Merlin that is perhaps the Anvil or Aegis style. They're both very utilitarian, but they're very different styling and sort of levels of safety.
Now let's actually go back now to the Pisces, because you guys alluded a little bit to that. I had some other stuff I want to talk about, but actually I saw it and I actually really liked it. And the reason why I like it is because I felt like there's a niche in the small ship area of Star Citizen that wasn't filled yet, that fulfills this idea of the shuttle. Because you've got small ships with like 1 seat or 2 seats, but nothing where you could like take a team in fit in a small hangar and fly down to a planet. So what were your inspirations for that?
It was pretty much, we wanted to make a shuttlecraft like that. like looking at like Star Trek, that kind of thing. It's like, oh, you've got a shuttle, you've got 1 or 2 seats, and then you've got storage in the back. And I think that it's basically it, and it also had to fit in the Carrack, which we had a very specific space that it had to fit in. And so just like those stats that we needed to have it fit in, and like these certain we wanted to have it a quantum drive, we wanted to have all these other things. It's like basically we just had to fit it in this space, and that
seems
of like
really
the challenge.
ambitious though for like such a small ship to get a quantum drive in there. That must have had some logistical challenges or programmatic challenges.
Yeah, the concept artist for it was Sarah, who did the Mercury Star Run as well.
Lovely ship.
When we gave her the brief, she was like,
all this.
It's like, is this a joke? 3 people and all these things, and this is the space I have to work with?
But at the same time, disagree with me if you will, I always find that restraints are often the most helpful things in creating creative solutions. Because when you have like an unlimited amount of options, it's hard to choose a path and to make it make sense, right?
Certainly as designers, that's something I enjoy, is working within constraints of something. I think for a lot of the game artists, they're not as warm to it straight away as designers are. They were like, no, I just want to make it. And that's why a lot of our ships tend to grow. And that's why the Carrack it did grow, and then it went back to its original size. Because like, no, it needs to fit.
But it was one of those early ships that you guys had concept art of, right? But you didn't necessarily have an interior layout that was really well worked out. So that was one of the issues you were talking about, where you have 2D translating to 3D, fitting with all the characteristic program that need to be into it, that create these logistical issues when you come to actually producing it. Yeah. So I imagine that's been one of the driving factors in trying to get it done, right? Yeah. So I do want to ask actually a little bit on server-side OCS. Now I know this isn't your wheelhouse, but I'm really interested to know if there was anything about not having that in game that limited you in your ship design. Were there any constraints with it?
For the vehicle side, it's not as important as the environment side. Like without server-side OCS, SOCs, whatever you want to call it these days, we can't really add any more to Stanton. It's like we could squeeze Microtech in if we take out Delamar, and then that gives us another 3 months, and then we're at the same point we are. So for a universe point of view, it's incredibly important. For vehicles, it does help because you could have, it doesn't really help that much, because if a vehicle's far away, it's unloaded anyway, it just leaves behind a reference. You're not loading the entire vehicle over there. But for planets, it's big.
For sure, and I kind of figured that would be the case for most ships, but when it comes to like ships like the Javelin or the Bengal, or even the bigger ships like the King ship, if there's an interior, I don't know. I'm not asking if you guys to reveal that. Is that something that you have to take into consideration then? Is that going to play a role in those ships to be able to try to make it run well?
Not for anything like server-side OCS or even client-side to a point, because you build the ship in a way that you don't see all of it at the same time. Yeah. And the Idris, the exterior of it is actually not one, it is one mesh, but it's subdivided in a way that it can LOD independently. It's not like the entire ship LODs down. It's split down the middle and into chunks. So if you're on the port side really close up, you'll see LOD 0, of that face. The other side of the ship will be LOD 5, because you can just perhaps see a tiny bit of it, but you don't need to spend the cost of rendering the entire backside of the ship at full detail. The interior will be cold, you won't be drawing that unless you look through a window, and then it'll only draw that room, so that's more important to us than anything.
So that's how you meet your
streamlined.
goals for quotas,
Yeah.
or for the budget that you have
Yeah.
for the performance and interior. Well, it'll be really interesting to see how well those big ships perform in the future.
But the 890 is our biggest shipping game, and I think we've all seen posts on Spectrum and Reddit of people with a full server of 50 890 jumps flying around, and the frame rate is not 60, but it's not single digits flying around, and even with Servo OCS, it wouldn't make any difference to that. It's just the pure amount of polys and entities on screen at that time.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, for sure. I can understand that because so when I was asking about server-side OCS, the thing that I was thinking about is, once you have like lots of people in a server and they're fighting inside, say, like a Javelin, sometime in the distant future, like how is that going to play on the server? Is it going to?
The server just goes, there's a Javelin here. It doesn't care about anything inside it other than players and entities that are updated. So it won't even. It'll just be doing these point updates for these.
So it's really about the wider
Yeah.
the wider area being
Yeah.
culled, and then it's just the interior.
Yeah, and the
fight for
demos
interior.
you've seen today here have been with server-side OCS on.
Really? You guys have heard it here now. Now, I know you guys have got a big schedule ahead of you, and I've taken a lot of your time, but I do want to ask a few more questions just from the community who wanted to pose some interesting questions to you that I didn't even think of. So really quickly to go over these, Woofer from my ARMCO community asks, with improvements to LOD tech, ship visibility at great distances is now possible, which, good job on that. I mean, it looks great. This has made it being stealthy more difficult on the dark side of planetary bodies and in space. Will we given the capability or the ability to toggle a stealth mode for lighting so that you can fly completely visibly invisible?
Yep, we want to have light groups be a cockpit interaction, so not just exterior where I turn my exterior lights on and off, but set my interior ones to forcibly go into the emergency state, forcibly go into the auxiliary state rather than just being purely tied to the power states, because there's a lot of cool.
Yeah, there's like a whole cockpit experience thing that we're kind of moving towards, where we want people to be able to turn on the lights and switch on different things and be able to interact with different things so that they can actually have control of all those little bits and pieces.
Are we going to get a red alert? Can we turn on red alerts?
The emergency light states we have in game at the moment, people only ever see them with the VFX.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, everything's on fire. And you take those VFX away, that's your red alert state.
So are we going to get that at some point though, where we can just flip the switch?
Yep. You can go put the entire ship into red alert.
I can't wait for that. It's going to complete the experience.
If you go in game now and just imagine, damage your ship enough to trigger that, and then just imagine it without any VFX.
No, I have. I mean, that's one of the coolest parts of the game is running through the ship as it gets down to really close to blowing up, and you're trying to get out, or you're fighting the last people who have boarded your ship or something in Star Citizen. It's such a cool experience. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, I'm a big Star Trek nerd, so I kind of I want to do red alerts or condition.
Everyone's always a Star Trek or a Star Wars nerd.
Yeah. Well, I'm both. I'm nerd for all science fiction.
I've said a brand, Nick.
You're good.
Now with I got maybe one or two more questions. The warm. One more. All right. One last question. Are there any plans to have land vehicles for mining, refueling, or salvaging?
Listen to our conversation that we're going to have earlier on stage.
Okay. All right. Well, there you guys have it. This has been a privilege and an honor to have both of you here today with me and to sit down and have a conversation. I love the work you guys do. Thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.